Go ahead. No, I'm not asking questions.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Since I noticed that you spelled off some pretty big names that are related to California and New Orleans and Louisiana. This is small town Cedar Rapids, and I'm a person that's really interested in keeping Cedar Rapids small town Cedar Rapids. I don't ever want this place to turn into Louisiana, Chicago, Minneapolis, Los Angeles. I mean, I don't want it to be that. So from you, coming from a big city, what do you think you're going to do to understand our small town values and bring those into your council position?
I believe that when making a decision to keep a city small, I think you have to look at the future of where the city needs to go beyond our living here. What will Cedar Rapids look like the next 30, 40, 50 years when we're not here? Are we making decisions to prepare for a Cedar Rapids, a better Cedar Rapids, 30, 40, 50 to even 80 years from now? And so although we may enjoy Cedar Rapids being that small town of 120,000 people, what happens after we die? What happens in the course of we're older citizens, seasoned citizens here in Cedar Rapids? I mean, to keep it small says that we don't want to grow, and we have to grow.
And so Paul says we don't want to get stupid and violent and a lot of these other things that we get in a big city. I mean, I'm telling you, I've been born and raised here. I got 5, 6 generations of family in this town. My grandparents built this town. You know what I mean? They paid for these streets that are out there. But I sit here and I watch today. It's like they're trying to turn this into some community I don't need. I paid for those streets they're driving on. They've taken like my 2 lanes and turned them into 1 lane. I paid for both of those lanes. That whole other lane that they're using for other stuff, somebody else that's using that ain't paying nothing for it. And see, this is the problem in our community. I'm tired of the fact that somebody's always paying for a bunch of stuff that somebody else is taking over and using for free.
Can we let the candidates
Sure,
talk now?
sure, go for it.
Again, we want to make Cedar Rapids attractive for growth.
Do we?
I believe that, I believe that
There's no we in that.
you have your opinion, and I appreciate it, point taken. But we must get to a place. My youngest daughter is 11. My oldest daughter is 17. I have 3 sons, 27, 24, and 22. My oldest son live here. My other 2 sons live in California. What would make Cedar Rapids attractive where our children who were raised here, I mean, this is one of the best places to raise your family. My wife is sitting right there. We've done well with raising our children here, when we arrived here 9 years ago. But what will make our children, after they go to our schools or get educated here, what will make them want to return back and be good model citizens as well? That's what Cedar Rapids need. And I believe that if we look at building our city from that perspective, all of the silly stuff that you're talking about, it could be handled if we become more community. You can grow large and yet still have that community mindset.
Do we have another question?
I have a question.
Okay.
So, if you address this up front, I'm sorry, but flood protection is going to be really important.
Sure.
What's your feeling about that, and how do you think it's going to be funded?
It's flood protection, I believe, is most important than anything on the agenda. Being from New Orleans and seeing my mother and my grandmother, my uncles, my family and friends, close friends, experience what they experienced in 2005. My high school was flooded out and we were never able to bring it back. Alumni is still strong, but flood protection is so key. I was just in New Orleans the 4th weekend in August when it was predicted that it was going to flood again. So drove down there to help my mother prepare just in case. And so I understand the importance of flood protection. I don't know where it's going to be funded, but I do know that it has to be funded. In some kind of way, the council must get together and citizens and come together with some kind of resolve to make sure that this is prioritized and this is funded. Because if we don't have flood protection, we don't have to worry about the city becoming larger.
Do you have a question?
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to do with flood reduction, but I kind of see a lot of people moving away. Do you have any plan as to how to propose to bring more businesses or industries or like more employers in to get the young people to say, I can get a good job and want to stay here? I'm not originally from Cedar Rapids, but I've lived here about 30 years to where I call it home.
Sure.
And there's reasons why I stay here, but, you know, sometimes I feel like it's big enough, but I see sometimes there's a lot of people moving away, and I don't necessarily think it's the frosting or the amenities that hold people to stay here. It's the jobs, or I understand Rockwell's been so older, going through that, will that take a lot of jobs away and that property, of course.
It was told, I believe, that Rockwell would take away, I believe, 8,000 jobs from Cedar Rapids.
So what is being done to kind of like recruit more businesses?
I'm not sure what's being done to recruit more businesses. I know the Iowa Startup Accelerator mentors up-and-coming startup businesses. But I believe that companies like Rockwell or General Mills or PepsiCo, Whirlpool and others must come together and recruit other major businesses to come to our area. We have good land, a good area, and I mean it's very attractive for growth. But if we never open up our minds to bring other corporations in so that they can not only employ our people, but people can come back and make a good, honest living.
As you as a council member, do you feel that that's part of your role to kind of go out there and help some of those companies?
Yes, ma'am. Part of my role would be to make sure that I advocate growth for our city. That's the only. I mean, if we stay I understand, sir, exactly your position. I take it. But if we stay the same way, we're going to always argue about tax dollars. We're going to always, nickel and dime ourselves. We have to put together a plan holistically, the team. And when I say team, mayor and council and other city officials, and look at areas in which we can grow our city.
Any questions down that end of the
I got a
table?
question.
Yep.
Sure.
Are fines a good way to supplement the city budget? Fines and penalties, just like the traffic camera,
Sure.
or even the civil penalty if you get if someone used your car to charge you $5. Is that a good way to supplement the city's budget?
I think it's been working, especially with the camera over there by H Avenue. It's been working since they installed it. It may not be legal, but it's been working since they installed it. But I think that the city, if it's taken away, we should have had a proactive a plan already in place, just in case if that camera was removed, and if we were not able to receive that, I believe $3 million a year from it, that something else should be in place to supplement that income.
So what you're saying, you believe that fines and penalties, civil fines and penalties, that is a good way for the city to make up its difference?
If it's legal.
Budget? If it's legal, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Can I interject just a moment? I mean, I think
Well, go ahead on this one.
about the fines and stuff. I really don't look upon like when people get picked up for speeding out there, finding that that's the way that our city is trying to get more income. I kind of look upon it as, because it looked like it was helping the safety. In the wintertime, I don't, well, I'm not asking for very much for that very reason, because when it was the high speeds, it seemed like lots of bad accidents.
Okay, but the reason why I asked that question, the city of Ferguson, they wrote more tickets than the people who lived in the city, and this was the way that Ferguson found. I mean, they got a nice city hall, a nice police, they got a brand new police station, a nice city hall, they got a but what they did, they financed it on the backs of individuals. That's why I asked this question, because many cities are moving in this direction to supplement their income. They are finding people, and
Do you want to
Well-
respond to that?
And the courts found it not, and then the courts found it not to be a good thing. And then in the state of Missouri, they passed a law where a city can
Excuse me.
only supplement so much of its
I think you should
income with fines.
answer
Yeah, we have to let our
that.
candidate.
I,
Yeah, that's okay.
again, I agree that fines should supplement, but as long as it's legal. I do believe that we must make sure that we're not going after people, in an illegal manner, to make sure that we supplement our income. We do know that back where I was from, back in California and New Orleans, police departments, police officers had to have a quota. They had to have a quota based upon the tickets in which they wrote. And so sometimes they wouldn't, sometimes they would just pull somebody over just to be pulling them over. And the person wasn't speeding. And so as long as it's legal, I'm for it.
Along the same line, if you had a chance to decide if it was legal or not, would you want it to be legal or not?
What I want
The
is,
speed cameras, say
Speed
on the
cameras?
interstate, should they be allowed to have them or not, in your opinion?
well, I think they've already been deemed illegal. And so I'm not gonna go back against what's already been said, that they're illegal.
It looked like you had, yeah, go ahead.
Are you in support of the current changing of the downtown lanes from two-way to one-way? And if so, what are you going to recommend to finish them up so that they're standard instead of so hodgepodge?
From one way to two ways, what you
Yeah,
meant.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, yeah, we knew what you meant.
I must admit that I'm not quite familiar, although I've recognized that the lanes have changed from 2 lanes to 1 lane.
One way.
One way to 2
Yes, sorry, from 1 to 2. So I can't answer that question accurately, but I promise you that if I was privileged to become a council member,
Well, what you've seen so far, are you in support of what they've done so far?
am I in support of what they've done so far? I don't see the inconvenience of it for me because I don't work downtown. I work out on the northeast side, at Mount Zion, and so it hasn't been an inconvenience for me. But I do know that to some it's been an inconvenience for them, and so I couldn't even answer that question either way. I wouldn't feel comfortable to answer that if you would take that.
Got a question over here?
Sure.
With respect to affordable housing,
Yes.
recently the city of Cedar Rapids, through the vote of the city council, endorsed a project off of a street called Edgewood and Crestwood. Now, with all due respect, I'm a fan of affordable housing. We need it desperately, and we should do whatever we can to fund it correctly. Anyway, over 1,300 neighbors voted against this proposition, simply because it constricted the lot, which was 1.9 acres. They wanted to build 49 apartments in this thing. It convoluted traffic. The majority of the city council, by 1 vote, disregarded the neighbors' views and passed that opportunity for those folks to build it. What's your thought on something like that?
My thought on affordable housing is that, number one, we do need it.
Amen.
We desperately need it,
Right.
but I believe we need it in the right areas.
True, but the issue is the neighbors objected to the building simply because they didn't feel it was safe to build it there. And yet, one councilman decided that, well, we should need it there, and he overrode the majority, basically, and it was voted in. So don't we think about neighbors and what they're entitled to in their neighborhood?
Yes, and
Amen.
it's so important because you wouldn't have a good city if you didn't have good neighbors in the neighborhood. But what test was done on the land?
Pardon me?
Was it any test done on the land to ensure that the land was safe? So what would they mean by safe?
It was a different safety issue. They're
Okay.
talking about numbers of people.
It was a traffic issue and so on and so forth. But this city responded so well to the flood because neighbors responded with one another to make this recovery effort really work well.
Sure.
And so when people in the neighborhood speak up, the council needs to listen to what they're saying.
Agree.
They need to listen to what they're saying.
City manager's office
Okay.
runs our city.
sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine.
We have a new form of government.
But
Let him respond.
But when you vote in council, you vote them to lead in those areas, am I correct? And you trust them to make the best decisions for the city.
Okay, time is up.
I wish I could respond to that, but we'll talk later
Okay,
about
okay.
that.
He'll be outside
I'm sorry.
after. All right.